Hello, my friends. Mac here. Today we're going to be diving into a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, and that is camping etiquette for overlanding. Camping etiquette is a guiding compass that helps you know how you should or should not treat the land, as well as the people who may or may not be camped near you. With overlanding gaining in popularity, there's more and more people going out to enjoy our wonderful wild spaces that are often very fragile. But good etiquette ensures that everybody is having a great experience and that these places will be around in the future for us all to enjoy. This video is made in partnership with our friends over at REI. To our family at REI, thank you for supporting us. We love you always. I know that overlanding is kind of a buzzword these days, so before we go too much further, I kind of wanted to pause and talk about what exactly overlanding means and who exactly qualifies as being an overlander. Overlanding is most commonly described as self-reliant adventure travel to remote destinations where the journey is just as much a priority as the final destination. But in essence, it's car camping that takes it a little bit further into the unknown. The word overlanding is relatively new here in the US, but it got its start in the Australian outback when overland routes were established to allow for intercontinental trade, cattle drives, and travel. First, it started out on horseback and then evolved into the rail system and finally to the motorcycles and automobiles that we know and love today. But in our eyes, if you're traveling on land, you're technically overlanding. See what I did there? Van life. That's overlanding. Doing a road trip in a Toyota Corolla? Overlanding. Bike packers. You're overlanding. Horseback. You and your horse are overlanding. Hikers? Yep, you're overlanding too. See? We're all overlanding. It just looks a little bit different from person to person. In this video, we will be focusing more on the vehicle-based camping aspects, but now that we're all on the same page about what overlanding is, let's get into camping etiquette for overlanding. I believe the phrase is know before you go. As simple as that sounds, it's wildly important to do a little bit of research on where you're going to be traveling to before you go so you can answer the following questions. Do you need a permit? How long can you stay? Is it first come, first serve where you're going to be going? And if so, do you have a backup plan if you arrive and find it full? Are you allowed to have campfires in this area? If you plan to use a drone, are you permitted to use a drone in that area? Depending on what type of land that you plan to explore, be it a national park, national monument, national forest, BLM land, which is short for Bureau of Land Management, the list goes on, all of them have different rules and regulations for where you can stay, for how long, and if you will need a permit. All of those are going to be really important factors into planning your trip. So doing a little bit of research can shed a lot of light on all of the answers to your questions. In the description of this video, we will have a blog post linked with a bunch of resources that we use when we're doing our own research on public lands and all of their rules and regulations. I know that when you start to do this type of research, it can feel really overwhelming to keep track of all of this and even just to remember it. But I promise with a little bit of practice, this will start to feel like second nature to you. First come, first serve is common in dispersed and primitive camping areas. It's important to come with a backup plan because there's always a chance that you could find your target camping area full, especially if you're going to be arriving later in the day or if you're headed to a popular area. Sadly, we commonly see people arriving late and then they're unable to find a spot. Because they don't have a backup plan, they'll then pull off the road and camp in undesignated areas. This leaves the plant life trampled and then leaves the entire area more susceptible to erosion. In some areas, it can take plant life decades to recover depending on what type of environment it's in. But with a backup plan, all of this is easily avoidable. As for campfires, we will get into this topic later on in the video because there's a lot to talk about there. Drones are an incredible tool for capturing the landscape from a unique perspective. However, different public land sites have different rules and regulations. For instance, in national parks, you are not allowed to fly drones because it's disruptive to both the wildlife and the other visitors. Other public land sites are different from place to place, so make sure you do your research before you go to be sure that you're not flying in a no drone zone. Our general rule of thumb is if we don't know beyond a shadow of a doubt, we just won't fly. If you've spent any time in the outdoors, I'm sure you've heard the phrase, leave no trace. Leave No Trace is actually a wonderful organization that has 7 easily understood principles to help you have a low-impact stay in the outdoors. Though their principles are rooted in the backcountry, they can easily be applied to anywhere you visit. The 7 Leave No Trace principles are as follows. Plan ahead and prepare. Travel and camp on durable surfaces. Dispose of waste properly. Leave what you find. Minimize campfire impact. Respect wildlife. Be considerate of other visitors. Plan ahead and prepare is actually everything that we just discussed, so just remember to know before you go. Travel and camp on durable surfaces. I did lightly touch on this earlier, but I can't stress enough how important this one is. For instance, in the desert, cryptobiotic soil and sagebrush can take decades to recover and protect from erosion. It can take the land years to recover even from a single set of tire tracks, but this kind of damage isn't just limited to the desert, so always try to remain on durable surfaces. Be sure that wherever you come to rest is in a pre-designated area on a durable surface that can handle you, your camp, and your vehicle. And please don't make new camp spots. Disposing of waste properly. Waste can be anything from gray water, human waste, your trash, and even that of others. Knowing before you go can help you understand if the environment can handle your gray water and what resources might be available to you for removing waste. As a general rule of thumb, if you pack it in, you need to pack it out. Or you could take it a step further and you should leave camp cleaner than you found it. I'm a firm believer that if people come after us and find a clean camp, they'll be far more likely to leave it that way too. As for outdoor bathroom practices, we will be discussing this fun little topic a little bit more in depth later in this video. Leaving what you find refers to leaving behind plants, rocks, artifacts, or even firewood where you found it to be sure that they're around for other people to enjoy who come after you. But also, it's important so you're not transporting a potential invasive species from one place to another on plants or even firewood. Minimizing campfire impact. All right, this is clearly an important topic because it's come up twice already, and I promise we'll get to it, but it has its own section in the video. We will get to it. Respecting wildlife is just what it sounds like. When we're outside, we're guests, and so we need to act accordingly. Here's a few things that we like to keep in mind when coming in contact with wildlife. Keep a respectful distance. Keep loud noises to a minimum, particularly at night. Do not feed wildlife because they become dependent on people as a source for their food. Respect seasonal trail and road closures that are put in place for nesting or animals raising their young. Do not leave food, drinks, or trash out, especially when your camp is unattended. It could potentially attract wildlife and once again create a dependency on human food, and let's be real, that's no bueno. Be considerate of other visitors. This is a very important one. We all go outside for different reasons, but more commonly than not, we're all trying to reconnect with nature and escape the hustle and bustle of day-to-day life. That being said, it's important to give people their space, so try to camp at a respectful distance. Also, keep your noise to a minimum so everybody can enjoy their hard-earned time in the outdoors. That covers the 7 Leave No Trace principles. Their website is an incredible resource for how to sustainably enjoy the outdoors. We will be adding that link as well to our blog post so you can refer back to it when you're doing your own research. As mentioned numerous times before in this video, it is really important to know the rules and regulations for campfires before you go. Be sure to look to see if your planned area of travel has any active burn bans, particularly if you plan on cooking over an open flame because you may need to pack accordingly. Burn bans can happen seasonally or even day to day depending on the area. These burn bans are put into place to protect from any potential forest fires, which is why it's really important to comply with any bans that are in place. Much like flying the drone, if we're ever in doubt, we just don't have a fire. It's important to keep in mind that you should use only pre-existing fire rings as opposed to creating new ones in areas where ground fires are permissible. In other cases, it's preferable to use an above-ground fire pit, so when you pack up and leave, you're not leaving any trace of your campfire behind. Firewood, oddly enough, has regulations around whether or not you can bring your own due to the chances of bringing in an invasive species. So, the general rule of thumb is to buy it where you burn it to mitigate that possibility. Something else you want to keep in mind as far as firewood is concerned is whether or not the collection of deadfall or cutting is permitted in your area. Again, this will be a case to case basis, so just do your research. One last thing in relation to campfires. If you made it through all of those things and you did end up having a campfire, just make sure that you completely drown out your fire before you go to bed or leave your camp spot to prevent any possible wildfires. Since we've already discussed giving each other space, now we need to talk about proximity to water sources. When camping by water, you always need to be 200 or more feet away from the water source unless otherwise noted. This is to protect from any unwanted things getting into the waterway. It also ensures that animals that rely on those places for their water are able to access it comfortably. I'm going to be honest with you and say that going to the bathroom outside is one of life's most simple pleasures. And if you laughed or think that I'm crazy for saying that, I can guarantee you've either never given it a chance or a fair shot. With more and more people going outside, we've come to notice that camp spots are starting to get overrun by toilet paper and surface shitting. When we find camp spots like this, it leaves it hard to enjoy them. And for those who are willing to clean it up, they're left with a hazardous mess. This absolutely cannot continue if we want our wild spaces to remain open for public access. So let's talk about how to properly use the bathroom in the outdoors. A cat hole is the most widely accepted method for when nature calls. A cat hole should be dug 6 to 8 inches deep and 4 to 6 inches in diameter and be at least 200 feet from a water source, camp, or any trails. Once your hole is dug, do your business. When you're done, cover your hole back up and disguise it with some natural foliage that you find around, and it'll be like it never happened. As for toilet paper, the best practice is to pack it out. Actually, toilet paper is not biodegradable because in most environments, it doesn't have everything it needs to fully decompose and then can stick around for years. For packing out our toilet paper, Owen and I like to keep biodegradable trash bags on hand. Or if you're wanting to lessen your need for toilet paper altogether, you could even try a backcountry bidet. As a side note, you should not burn your toilet paper in your cat hole because this is a good way to prevent forest fires. All of that being said, there are some places where you will actually need to carry out your own poo. This is a great instance where knowing before you go is tremendously helpful. If you're headed into an alpine area or a place that has mostly rock as its ground cover, these are going to be the instances where you will potentially need to carry a human waste bag. We recommend always having a few of these on hand just in case you happen to find yourself in an area like this. They're convenient and easy to use, but again, you cannot leave them on the trail or tucked into a rock. You must pack them out because leaving them on trail might actually just be worse than pooping there in the first place. We will be sure to link these human waste bags in the blog post for your convenience. We thought it would be fun before we let you go to talk to a few other friends in the overlanding community about what aspects of camping etiquette for overlanding is important to them. This is what they had to say.
For me, the most important piece of overland camping etiquette that you need to know is where you're going. And what that means for me is you have to understand, number one, what your destination point is. And number two, you have to understand exactly where that place is, whether you're on BLM land or Forest Service land, Native American land, if you're in a wilderness study area or a sensitive environmental area. All those factors are really important to how your trip is going to go and what you can do once you get there. Especially here in the West Coast, fire is a huge thing. Understanding where you can and cannot have fires and when you can and cannot have fires is really crucial to the ecology here. With so many people that are going out now that are taking into the vehicle style of travel and the camping that comes along with it, it's now more than ever important for us to really pay attention to where we go and what we do when we get there to make sure that we leave the least amount of impact as possible.
Hey guys, so I think for us one of the most important things etiquette-wise when camping or overlanding in the outdoors, especially when you get more serious about it and you're getting into harder to reach places, more remote places, is to keep in mind that one of the main reasons, at least for us, that we go to those places to begin with is to get a little bit of solitude in the outdoors. And I think all too often we see people overcrowding each other, strangers. You know, if you're with your friends, obviously people can camp and hang out together. But especially these days, it's more and more popular, more and more people are in the outdoors, and it really doesn't matter if it's a place that you camp every weekend and then you show up and somebody else is already there. You're not entitled to that space any more than anyone else is. So yeah, keep your space and be respectful of other people, and understand that while maybe you're a really sociable person and it seems like, oh, look, other like-minded people, let's go hang out, the reasons that people spend time in the outdoors may vary, and some people really might be interested in the solitude.
Hello, we're David and Jamie with Jurassic Overland Adventure.
One of the most important rules we stand behind while camping or overlanding is leave no trace.
Because all too often we come across public lands littered with broken glass, toilet paper, and empty shell casings.
No one should have to spend the first hour of settling into camp cleaning up other people's carelessness. Please, while you're out, leave no trace so that all of us can enjoy the beautiful land that's meant for us.
And have safe travels out there.
I would say good camp etiquette would be, first off, just respecting the land that we're on. You know, if it's public, even if it's not, if you're in a national park, just respect the land, because we might not always get access to it.
There's actually a lot of rules with public land, right? You drive on designated roads on public, and you just can't go off in the distance where your whims take you, right? Yeah. Stay on the trail. Don't rut it up. A lot of people think that you just go to public land and you just camp anywhere, right? And it's not like that. It's like there's very designated spots that you just could camp. Respect nature and respect other people.
Maybe I sound old.
Well, that just about covers it. I know that feels like a lot, but as soon as you start to put it into practice, it becomes second nature. And by doing all of these things, it ensures that you have a wonderful experience, and so will all of those who come after you. As mentioned numerous times, we will be linking our blog post in the description of this video with a ton of helpful resources for you when you're planning your next trip. We will also have some gear recommendations to help you leave no trace while you're camping. Thank you guys so much for watching, and most importantly, happy camping. Until next time, we'll see you down the road. Do you hear that? Like a high-pitched whistle? Is and easily be cryptobiotic. Almost said biotic, cryptic. Road closures. This is going to be a case to cases.